Welcome. My name is Kira. I'm a bookseller here at Politics and Prose, where we host a range of in store events along with classes and trips. Before we get started today, I'd like to ask you to please silence your cell phones so as not to disrupt the event. And when we get to the Q&A portion, we've got a microphone over here next to this column. Today, I'm very excited to welcome Miriam Toews, celebrating the release of her new book, A Truce That Is Not Peace. Miriam Toews is the author of the best-selling novels All My Puny Sorrows, Women Talking, Summer of My Amazing Luck, A Boy of Good Breeding, A Complicated Kindness, The Flying Troutmans, Irma Voth, Fight Night, and one work of nonfiction, Swing Low, A Life. She is winner of the Governor General's Award for Fiction, the Libris Award for Fiction Book of the Year, the Rogers Writers Trust Fiction Prize, and the Writers Trust Engel Finley Award. She lives in Toronto. Toews will be in conversation with Ron Charles, a book critic for the Washington Post, as well as CBS Sunday Morning. So without further ado, please join me in welcoming Miriam Toews and Ron Charles.
Hi.
Hello.
Thank you.
So good to see you all.
It is.
I have wanted to meet you for a long, long time.
Me?
You write the funniest and the saddest books I have ever read. And I have wanted to meet this person who is capable of these extraordinary emotional splits.
Well, here I am. I wanted to meet you too, Ron, because, there are a lot of really excellent reviews in the Washington Post that I appreciated over the years and never had the opportunity really to thank you.
Well, thank you. We're very delighted you're here.
I know it's not something that you think. I know.
So I want you to reflect for a bit for us out loud. Is it an artistic reflex, this ability to do comedy and tragedy blended together the way you do it, or is it closer to some sort of a survival instinct?
I think that is both. I think it's certainly not something that I'm, that I consciously say, okay, I'm going to, inject humor into this thing or whatever. I think it's just how I see the world, and I see the world as a pretty funny place. I mean, it's a absurd, ridiculous place, filled with really funny, awkward, suffering human beings. It's a dark place. It's a tragic place. It's a horrible place, in so many ways as well. But I think it just, my writing just comes as a result of how I see things, and I think too, just about the humor thing. When I was a kid, I was sort of put in a position of just sort of organically in our family dynamic of being, just this little kind of, like shecky,
You were the funny one.
Well, I don't know that I was, but I think that, I felt I took on that responsibility. I was always desperate to make, particularly my dad laugh, and that was a tall order, and so when I could do that, it was just it was the best feeling in the world. So I think that just started early.
You left the Mennonite church. Are there any residual elements of faith from that experience in you?
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, yeah, I left the Mennonite church, and then I was subsequently, a few years or 10 years, I guess, after that, I was like formally excommunicated. But it's I mean, at that point, I thought, well, yeah, I haven't, that's okay. But now, but now in retrospect, it was my uncle who sort of, brought the axe down. My favorite uncle, who was, I guess, at the time, a deacon in the church, and it was his responsibility to, do the excommunications. And so I was one of them. And at the time, I just thought, sure, whatever. I mean, my lifestyle, the fact that I hadn't been to church, my lifestyle, I had 2 children, out of wedlock, and was just, not obviously, a team player, and so, but now, looking back, and my mother at the time was so upset on my behalf, that it was, that had happened, and that it was my uncle. But he was just the messenger, and now my mother is a member of a very very liberal, tolerant, open-minded, socially like progressive church in downtown Toronto, Mennonite church. And I now, because she's so old and needs help with things, I have to go to church with her.
This is how they get you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We get to sit though when the hymn, everybody else, when the hymns come out, everybody stands, but she says I'm not standing, and so then I could sit with her. And anyway, so I am going to church, and I am inspired by by some of what I hear, and just the pastor's particular interpretation of the scripture is something that has of late moved me, and I have to laugh at myself and wonder what's going on.
Yeah. I grew up in a small, odd Christian church too, and I wonder if a kind of ironic humor doesn't evolve from that, having to adhere to these very strict rules in a world of great ambiguity. Is that part of your wit?
Yeah, well, that's a good question. I mean, yeah, adhering to very strict rules in what was the
world of ambiguity.
A world of ambiguity. Yeah, that's so nicely put. Yeah, exactly. I mean, the rules just seem, and maybe this is your experience too. I mean, the rules just seem so arbitrary, so ridiculous, so laughable, and yet you see the damage that they inflict on people. You see the destruction when there are people who are genuinely, trying to follow those rules because they've been threatened with all sorts of horrible things if they don't, just that fear, and it's and it can really cut you off from, I mean, it did me, from that whole world of faith, really, of religious, inquiry or instruction or whatever it is. It just makes me and so many people like me, people disenfranchised Mennonites who, to just turn our backs, completely and to hate it. And and it's taken me till now at this ripe age of mine.
Not all that right.
Ours. To really be able to think outside of all of that, to think for myself and to think about what is there that I can use,
cherish, appreciate,
and have. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. We're going to talk about your book now, specifically. Before we get too far along, this discussion will involve discussions of suicide. Pay attention to yourself. If that's a problem for you, feel free to get up and move away. And if you need help, text or call the Suicide and Crisis hotline at 988. Help is available, and you are not alone. So, what motivated you to write a memoir now after several very successful novels? And a memoir about your father, too.
Yeah. I think it was just what I was thinking about. When I was in between books, and thinking about what am I going to write, or will I write? And
and what, say some of your novels seem very autobiographical too.
Yeah, very. Yeah. I mean, how there are all these labels: fiction, nonfiction, sort of memoir, whatever. Right. It all just is kind of a little bit.
But this is definitely on the nonfiction side.
It's nonfiction, yeah. But so are the novel. I mean, but yeah. And I was just questioning. I think I was having a crisis of faith in writing, and asking myself why it was that I was doing what I was doing. And so I needed to, I guess I just wanted to, I was just compelled to attempt to answer that question in my writing. And I guess for me, nonfiction seemed to be the best, kind of container for that, to just use parts of my life in an attempt, a failed attempt, obviously, to answer that question, and then creating this sort of central pastiche of this Mexico City literary festival,
Right.
asking me the question, but that's a pastiche basically of all of the various places that have, and individuals who have asked me why I write.
Right. It follows a very unusual structure. I mean, when you say it's a memoir, we expect, I was born in, 1963, and then I went to grade school, and there was this wonderful teacher, and on it goes, right? You don't give us that. It's a very loose structure of anecdotes and quotations from letters and references to poems. It's a highly designed and sophisticated scrapbook in a sense. How did you arrive at that structure as opposed to the more traditional structure that you could have done in a chronological order?
Yeah, well, at the beginning, I didn't think about the structure. I just started just putting things down, kind of blindly feeling my way in, which is my process, I guess. The word process, silly, but process, non-process, and then when I had enough jottings
Yes.
and things, I thought, okay, now I need to make sense of this, and how will I do that? And my editor, I need to give all due credit to my editor, who also helped me to make sense of that, and who said, I see it as there are these six sort of circling around
Oh.
this, and so yeah, and then it just kind of fell into place that way, and I think that it's not. I think some people might find it, a little bit. What's the word? Disjointed, or
It's poetic.
okay. That's a generous word too. Okay, and others might say, yeah, it makes sense, but that would obviously be, the sign of a scrambled mind, which, like mine.
It is, as you say, and let's back up a bit, organized around this question. A Mexican literary conference sends you a letter, as writers get, I suppose, and they want you to respond to the question, why do I write? One of these questions that literary journalists like me are always asking people like you. And it's kind of a vacuous question, and it almost,
I mean,
it invites a kind of pomposity, which you resist.
Yeah, and yet at the same time, I mean, I was asking myself that question.
So throughout the book, you ask yourself this question, and you resist this question. Right. And you keep being told by the Mexican Literary Conference, that answer will not do, try again. Yeah, this is the conceit of the book. And you say that's a fictional structure you've imposed over the...
Yeah, that's the only, fictional, piece of it. There is no, this literary festival in Mexico City, but there are similar. I just wanted to not name the, I'm just tired of angry people.
So let's put that off for a minute. Why do you write? But I will get back to it. How did you begin writing? It's a funny story about you learning to type.
Oh yeah, so I learned how to type, and I have so that was the only thing that my mother ever said. She never told me what to do. She just said, I would really strongly advise that you take typing at high school. You're going to need typing, and in her mind, it was as a fallback kind of thing, right? That was typical for when we were young women.
Because you could be a secretary.
Yes, exactly, and so I just sort of thought, well, yeah, I guess okay, I'll take it. Easy credit, whatever, bang away at these keys for an hour every other day, and then, but I really got into it.
You really got into it.
I really got into it to the point where I was just typing everything in my mind, like it just became, like Charlie Chaplin and what's that movie? Modern times. The assembly line, like you just can't. He's doing this, thing, and he just can't stop. And that movement, that action, and that's what I was doing with typing everything. So that if I were sitting here, I would be typing everything. Or even now, I would be just like in my mind and like typing everything.
So you began writing by typing, basically. Why did I become a writer? Because I love to type.
Because I love to type. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, thank you. Now I have my answer.
No,
yeah, there's no reason. There's no reason to read the book. Yeah,
no one else has
over.
ever said that.
Yeah, and I hadn't even thought of that. Yeah. Oh man,
it is a funny part of the book where you're just typing everything.
Yeah, absolutely everything. You know, everything. And the part that I mentioned is just, and I remember so clearly riding in the car with my parents. They'd be in the front seat. You know, it'd be dark. We'd be coming from the city or something exciting like that, and everything that they said to each other, and everything on the radio, which was always the hog and crop report. That's all that they ever listened to, even though they weren't farmers. And it was just this, I don't know what it was, like white noise for them or something, or, you know, prevented them from having a conversation.
And you're back there
typing
it out.
Typing, you know. Yeah, alfalfa up. Okay, hogs down. Like, yeah.
Well, to bring it way down, one of the reasons you actually started writing was because your sister asked you to, which is sweet. But she asked you to write to keep her alive.
Well, that's how I interpreted it. And so when I was 18, I, you know, had finished high school and I was going to go on this cycling trip with my boyfriend at the time. And my sister was very sick during that time, depression. And she moved back home to my parents' house and left university, moved back home, and she asked me before I left. She said, "Please, please write me letters, from your trip. Just anything, just write it, and please send it to me." And I guess it was obviously a kind of naive thing on my part too. I was like, yes, I will. I promise. You stay alive. I'll write letters. You stay alive. And she, and now in retrospect, of course, I can see that, she was just, sort of indulging me too by smiling and saying, yes, deal, and she did stay alive at that point. But, I've come to realize, and I think we all know that, whatever letters are written or anything written at all isn't going to keep somebody alive if they don't want to be alive. But for me, it was a gift from her. Before that, it didn't occur to me to write anything down or to think like that, or that I enjoyed it or anything like that. It just wasn't a thing that I would have done. But when I started doing that, when I started writing letters, and I was writing to entertain her, I was writing to, the intimacy of the letter. There was no notion of, oh, this is going to be published someday, obviously. So there was such freedom in it, such joy. But
it's different than a journal, right?
Liked it.
A journal is something else entirely. You had an audience.
I had an audience. Yeah, my sister. Yeah.
That makes a big difference in how you learn to learn narrative, for instance, or dialogue or description.
Absolutely. And then she continued to be my audience. I mean, she was always my first reader, and to this day, she died in 2010, but to this day, I still, she's just like sitting right here, looking over my shoulder at my work and making sure that, the jokes land and that it's as honest as it can be.
That's lovely, but it's a lot of pressure.
Yeah. I don't know what to do though about it. I mean, it's we all have, the occupational hazards of it and the pressure. Yeah. I mean, also, I feel too the pressure of, I absolutely get something out of writing. I mean, it makes me feel alive. It keeps me alive. I feel when I write that, oh, I am alive. So it's not that I am just, writing, for her or but certainly I feel, there is a part of me absolutely that feels, okay, Marge, I'll say the shit that, you would have said if you'd been around,
What was she like?
challenging.
What was she like?
What was she like?
What was she like?
Oh, she was very sophisticated. She was very worldly. In a way. I mean, she was 6 years older than me, and she left town, our very conservative, fundamentalist little religious community. She went off into the city. She came back with books and records and boyfriends, and she was, and then she was an atheist. You know what? I mean, this was just mind blowing. I mean, the whole community was just, beside themselves with what will happen. She was discouraged from going to university in the first place by the, church, by the elders in the church. But my parents always encouraged us. My family was this sort of little anomaly within the community of kind of, outward lookingness and always encouraged us to express ourselves and to challenge authority, really. At least my mother did. And so she did that. And she was affected so much by the town, by the church, by those rules, by that emphasis on on discipline, on sin, on shame. And she absorbed all of that in a way that I feel I didn't. I think I was more able to, not, but she felt it. And she would like challenge, like men, it was always men, like the ministry, on for instance, their interpretation, their sort of literal interpretation of the scripture, which of course, put girls and women, in a certain category, and just supported, a type of, patriarchy, obviously, that existed there, and she challenged that, and she suffered, she, and I don't think she ever like it just was with her, she absorbed that.
Yeah. I see people who just drift away and they're fine. And then other people who leave but don't leave.
Yeah.
They leave and they just keep the anger with them. Mm-hmm. You write in several times, actually, why must I draw a comparison between writing and suicide? Have you been able to, it's such a provocative question. Have you been able to answer that question?
Not fully, and I'm sure I never will. I mean, there are no, there are no answers, or there are a million answers. I mean, it's writing and suicide, if I think about it, and, and first of all, my attempt to try and draw an association, between the two, I think comes from, just this need to connect with my sister, with my father.
Your father took his own life too.
Who also, took his own life in 90, and also a close cousin of mine, and to connect. And I think that writing is a way, really, of removing yourself from yourself. It's taking everything that's inside of yourself, thoughts and feelings and emotions, and packaging them in a way, and crafting a narrative around them and taking it and putting it there, and so getting away from yourself. And and I think that in that way, there are similarities.
You mentioned that your mother doesn't write and she's not depressed.
She's a lucky woman.
And you suggest, at least to me, a connection between not writing and not being depressed. Is that?
I wonder. I wonder. I mean, we can go over the writers that we know. And
it's not uncommon.
No, it's not. It's not uncommon. I don't think that you need to be depressed to write. And I don't think that all depressed people write.
Your mother says, "Oh, phooey," just brushes things off. Yeah. That's what we need. Yeah. A therapy of oh, phooey.
Yeah, oh, phooey. Yeah, just throw that out the window. Oh, that guilt, Miriam? You just throw that out the window. Yeah, that's her. Yeah.
Emerson says that our temperament can't be changed, that the way the beads are on the wire, that's just the way they're set. Your mother would say, "Oh, phooey" to Emerson, I suppose.
Probably. Well, I think she might say, "Who's Emerson?"
Good for her.
Is he a mystery writer?
There's a haunting contrast in your memoir between writing and silence, and You talk about the way your father and your sister were silent. They didn't speak for years. Sometimes.
Well, yeah, sometimes. I mean, the first year that I was born, the first year of my life, my father was silent for that entire year, and and of course, I mean, whether was I affected by that or not? Probably. I was an infant, but my sister certainly was.
Right.
6 years older than me, and so, yeah, and they would just be silent, and it was baffling, and for me, especially as a kid. Later my mother was able to explain a little bit,
Right.
to me about what they were going through and what was happening. But yeah, um, it was scary and also frustrating, and it didn't seem to be hostile silence. It wasn't, like the silent treatment.
Right.
There was no aggression there.
Right.
Yeah.
You talk of them as allies, silence and writing. You maybe think of them in a sort of poetic sense, maybe two sides of the same page, or the way a sculptor thinks about negative space, the way a poet thinks about the silence between lines or line breaks, things like that. It's a very. How has the idea of silence affected your own writing? I think, for instance, there are so many breaks in this memoir, so many silent moments in this memoir.
Yeah, I mean, that sort of fragmented structure is probably, really a manifestation of my mind, my thinking around it all. Where I don't know. I mean, there are blanks. There are so many questions, and I don't know the answers to. And and I think at one point I say, in those white spaces, is where my sister can meet, between silence and writing, and that her silence, says, so much more. That silence is. I think I say something like silence is not talking, and writing is not talking.
Oh.
They're both sort of going into yourself, and yeah, just like I said, and then putting yourself aside in a way, and particularly with her silences. I mean, I think that the pain that she was experiencing, that psychic pain, from her despair, from her illness, from her depression, was just something that she realized that she could not make understood, by anybody. Probably couldn't understand it herself, and that are the limitations of language that we all struggle with. I mean, it's what we have. It's what we have to communicate with, to forge connections with other human beings, which I feel is, the meaning of writing, really, in a sense, and also life. Well, but there are so many limitations, and I think that for her, the silence was just the sort of perfect expression, or non-expression of that just that unsayable, unspeakable pain.
You talk throughout the book about a wind museum you're going to build. It's a funny motif that comes up again and again. You wonder how the wind museum will work, what will be in the wind museum, how people would move to the wind museum, what the wind museum will contain. Obviously, it's funny, but it also, as you talk about silences and speaking, and you think about what wind is, it's breath. You think about the word inspiration, respiration. Yes. So what's the Wind Museum doing in this book?
Yeah, it's true. I mean, I'm just riffing on this idea. It was something that of course, it's for me, it's a strong metaphor for what writing is. The attempt to contain wind in one in one building, the attempt to contain whatever it is that in a book. I mean, both are futile. Yet we will keep trying. I'm not sure that I'll keep trying to build a wind museum, but at first, when I was a kid, it was a rain museum that I was so obsessed with. I thought that would be great, but then it switched into wind. But there are all sorts. I was just actually in the UK, and a woman said to me, she was a curator. She was a curator at a museum, and she was like, "Okay, your wind museum, it could work. I can help you. I can help you with that." And so, so then I was like, "Oh no, I mean, well, okay," but yeah, then I just felt, this sort of responsibility that, okay, now I do have to do it. I've rambled and rambled on about doing it. I guess I should do it and put my money where my mouth. But there are all sorts of legal problems because, of course, you create a room and like if you're going into the hurricane wind or gets slammed up against the wall. I mean, waivers will have to be signed and I don't know how to, everybody will obviously congregate in the gentle breeze room and we'll have to get people to. I'll let you know though if I ever get it. Okay. Yeah, that'll be like an alternative to writing for sure.
I think it's in the African American Museum, isn't it? Where there's a room where there's rain. It's quite profound.
Here?
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I've only been once, but it's quite lovely.
Yeah, that's really amazing. Well, yeah.
Travels with Wolfie. It's one of the funniest and most extended parts of your memoir is this long trip you took with a boyfriend who is so obviously not right for you, I might say, as your mother. But you persist. Those scenes are really funny and disturbing. As you look back at those youthful misadventures, is that where you sort of developed your voice, do you think, at that moment where you were going through that experience? Or is it only in retrospect?
Well, no, I think that is where I developed my voice to a certain degree. But now that you say it like that, I think, oh, no, this voice that I developed was like this bitchy kind of like, oh, this guy's such an asshole. Or, oh, I get ready, I'm so hungry. We have no money. He's spending all our money on John Fowles hardcover books, and I don't even have money to, I don't know. But it was like those were the letters that I wrote to my sister.
The actual letters.
Yeah,
she saved them.
Yeah, she saved them. She saved them. I copied a bunch of them. What is in the book is not all of them. And then after she died, I went to look for stuff at her place, and they weren't there.
Where were they?
I don't know.
But you'd copied them.
I copied them. I copied these, the ones that I.
They're pretty sophisticated. I mean, you were right. You were at that age. You were already writing really well. They're funny and self-aware and good scene setting. I mean, everything's there.
Well, but I am also struck by the fact that So Wolfie comes off as a bit of a, but I too was not innocent.
Oh, yeah. It's a good.
I mean, I was also, not, probably the girlfriend that his mother would have chosen for him.
And unlike the Mexican Literary Conference, which did not actually exist, there is a Wolfie out there?
Yeah. I mean, all this stuff is on YouTube and everything. Not that, I mean, I shouldn't be, vain enough to think that Wolfie is going to go and,
That's not his real name, though?
No.
Okay. He's not contacted you yet?
Yet. No. I don't know what should I say if he does. I'll just say.
Just deny it, I suppose.
Yeah. Or,
well, you're so vain to think that was you.
Yeah, but it's so obvious.
There's another young man I dated who bought John Fowles novels.
Yeah, exactly. Strangely enough, I have a type, so. And he was with me the whole time. I just kept him hidden, from you as we were traveling along. But yeah, he was just, mimicking everything that you did. So it's not you.
Yeah, exactly. Let your publisher worry about the legal battles.
Yeah.
You hint toward the end, I hope you're just being ironical, that you're thinking about retiring.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that again is a little bit of I think after every single book, I'm sure there are writers here, and after every single book, and do you think that's it? I just can't do it anymore. I can't turn myself inside out and enter the wind museum again. And so but then of course a few minutes pass.
Read that passage for us.
Oh, okay.
If you don't mind.
From you hinted at, this is, okay, right. I wanted to be a person who would say, smiling, I'm happily retired now from everything, to be with my grandchildren, to spend time with my old mother. I've written enough things. I'm at peace. My days of typing every damn thing with the fingers in my mind are over. I'm here to serve, to sit and listen, to comfort, to care for, to encourage, not to vent my hideous spleen, not to worry that I might not live much longer, not to rearrange words like a child. Yeah. But I mean,
The irony of that passage is that, you are still writing.
yeah, exactly. And I probably just will. I mean, writers can't retire. I have 3 spleens, actually. I just wanted to get that out there. It's true. I had an ultrasound, and my doctor discovered that I have 3 spleens, not one. Speaking of, I mentioned my spleen, but I have 3.
I don't know what to do with that. There are several doctors in the audience. If this is DC, so you can talk to her later.
Yeah, and my doctor called them accessory spleens. And they're not, and she didn't know if, I said, well, am I continuing throughout my life? Will I continue to, this is in my 30s, will I continue to make more and more spleens inside of myself? And she thought not. She thought it would just be the 3. And I asked, well, are these 2, did they split off from the main one? And she didn't know that either. She said, it's not anything to worry about.
You could be all spleen someday.
And you can't even, nobody needs a spleen, actually. So you can't even, sell spleens on eBay or whatever. You can't even, I can donate them. It's not like a kidney where I could.
You can just vent them. That's the only thing you can do with a spleen.
That's my point. Yeah, I have 3 spleens, so there's a lot of venting that I'll have to be doing in the near future.
I'm glad we're ending with joy, because there is a lot of joy in this book. And it ends with joy. It ends with chaos. You talk about your home. Tell us about your living arrangements.
So now there are 4 generations of us living in Toronto, and together. There's my mother lives on the main floor. When my sister died, she moved to Toronto to live with my daughter and I, and so she lives on the main floor of the main house, and my daughter and her husband and 2 kids live on the second floor and the attic part, and then my partner and I built a little laneway house in the backyard, so we live in the little shed in the backyard, and we're all there, and it's for me it's just a dream come true, and I just think it's just everything. It's everything that I like to keep my family close to me, and whether my family likes it or not, I don't know. but having said that, it's nice to hit the road a little bit, be by myself in a hotel room.
It's the silver lining of book tours. Yeah. The title comes from an essay by Christian Wyman, a great Christian poet, and you quote Wyman throughout the book. You know his work well. What is it that draws you to his work, his poetry, and the essays?
Mm-hmm. I mean, I love the way that he writes. He's a beautiful writer, and I, he writes about faith and creativity and pain, sickness, suffering, doubt. He is a Christian.
We could mention that he was diagnosed with brain cancer. He was supposed to die, and he did not.
Yeah, he did not. And I've never met him, but as far as I know, he's okay.
Yeah,
do you know?
I've met him.
Yeah,
he is okay.
Yeah.
That was a long time ago, too.
Yeah, it's amazing. And so that's wonderful. Yeah.
And you find in him a kind of hard faith, a faith that appeals to you.
Yeah, a hard faith, a faith that appeals to me because, he's not, there's no sermonizing there. There's no, sort of trite kind of saccharine sort of, you just put your, he questions everything and, and leaves it at that. There's no coming around to, some pat kind of but, my faith is strong, and with my, my faith, being in God, I'll it's not like that. It's not like the preaching that I, that I experienced as a kid growing up where I grew up, and I just think that his thoughtfulness and his uncertainty is so appealing and so honest, and I'm so also envious of his in spite of everything, of his faith. Even though he's all at the same time always questioning it. It's like the two go. I mean, you can't have faith without doubt, right? So, yeah.
Yeah. I'm sure they have collections of his and essay collections in the store after you buy Miriam's book.
No, just get his.
No.
He's not long for this world. Come on, just get it.
Actually,
so.
we have. It's so wonderful to talk to you. Would you want to talk to the audience a little bit?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
You've got
Thank you,
a microphone
Ron.
here. Please, you have to stand at the mic because otherwise people listening online can't hear you. So please go to the microphone and.
Thank you so much. This has been so joyful and thought-provoking, and I'm so sorry I can't speak very well because I too have a brain issue. So you talked about so many things almost in counterpoint with the grief and joy and sorrow and joy and sort of humor. We heard the word grief and guilt, and if it's not too difficult to say, I wondered if you felt the guilt, because you mentioned that your sister basically had sheltered you for those years. She kind of got the brunt of it, and then of course you had to help her stay alive. And I wondered how that guilt or lack of guilt has manifested in your life, but also in your writing.
Thank you.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for your question and comment. I feel guilt every single day, and I don't think it will ever go away. And it's something that I can talk about in therapy, and and I can be told, and that that I shouldn't feel guilt, and that But I work every day at and get just to getting to a place where I can, I am attempting to understand my sister and why she took her life, my father too, and I know that of course I'll never come to any kind of, but also what I'm really trying to get to is a place of respect for their choice, and knowing that was the decision that they made, that they felt they had to make, to get rid of the pain, and I can ask myself, why didn't I see this or hear this or know that or respond to that? Why wasn't I there? Why didn't I do this? Late in her life, or just before she died, when I was living in Toronto, I had moved to Toronto. She asked me then too, in the same way that she had when I was 18. She said, "Please, please write me letters," and I really didn't. I texted, I called, and sent a few emails, but I just wanted to call her. I just wanted to, I should have. Written letters, obviously, that wouldn't have made any difference, but things like that, and my mother too. I mean, we live, as suicide survivors, and I'm sure, there are many or some of you here, and it's just something that we always have to continuously talk about and just live with. Yeah.
Miriam, thank you. I thoroughly enjoyed your book. And there was a paragraph somewhere, it was in the first quarter of the book, I think, that I thought was one of the most beautiful in the book. You were writing about where writing lives, where it's situated. And I'll read just a couple lines. Maybe that'll jog your memory.
Christian Wyman writing that?
Well, actually, I want to ask, it relates to your comments about Christian, well, your references to him throughout the book and then the comments you just made now. But you're right, between the beginning and end of civilization, the Parthenon and the pelting of stones, in the narrow corridor, the spit of land is where writing lives. After dissolution, just after, before the end of relief, but quite a bit before, is where writing lives. And then you throw in a sentence that seems, it's completely oblique to that. You write, recently a private equity investor asked me if I had a soul, and I couldn't stop laughing. And then you go on to write about, again, where writing is situated, and you write about your sister, and in the same paragraph, and you end up and talking about your sister's soul. So the question, and especially since you talked about Christian Wyman now and how you have a kind of envy of him, I'm wondering that reference to that question that the private equity investor asked you and your response to that, what was that all about?
Yeah, I mean, thank you. And aside from the fact that he was a private equity guy, and I still don't even really know what private equity is, but it's kind of evil, right? I mean, anyway, maybe. Oh, this is on YouTube. Okay.
Only
But,
forever.
yeah, but the soul thing, though. I mean, when he asked me, I was nervous. That was like a nervous. And you know what? I think about that line often because I feel now that I should have added more to that. When I say, this guy asked me if I had a soul, and I just laughed and laughed. I really wish that I had added. Because I was so nervous or something a little bit, better sounding than that. But because it just seemed like if I'm thinking of my sister's soul, if I'm thinking of our souls, and I do, I think about souls, and I know, maybe that might sound a little flaky in a way, but the older I get, the more I think about this, and it just seemed so the wrong time to talk about it, like something that was so intimate, like so deep in a way. I'm not saying that I have a deep soul or anything like that, but just that the soul, our collective soul, the soul of humanity is something that is so strong to me, so fiercely alive to me, something that I feel that we can't often even tap into necessarily. Like we don't use, the majority of our brains, they say. I feel that we're not often, really getting to our soul, and myself included, and so just this kind of flippant comment, like, do you think you have a soul? Like, the way that we would have, in first year university, like, do you believe in God? Do you think there's a God? Like, it's sort of like, well, I can't just toss off some, yeah, I have a soul, or no, I don't, you know what I mean? And I think that's why that line.
So Miriam, my name's Murray Hebert.
Oh, hello. Welcome. Where are you from?
Steinbach.
Oh, no.
And
I knew it.
I have more connections to you than that yet. Your father was my 6th grade school teacher at the Ellendale School. And I used to deliver newspapers to your house as a kid. So, I mean, like, I even know where your house was, but I don't know if it's still there. I don't go.
Are you Wolfie?
Eh?
No.
He's not Wolfie.
Okay.
No, he's
No,
not.
I'm
He's
not
not.
Wolfie.
He's not Wolfie, but you might know who Wolfie is. But
Maybe, but you don't have to tell me.
so I'm
But-
from Steinbach too. So as soon as he said his name was
And
Murray Hebert,
actually we-
Hebert is a Mennonite name. That's what.
And Ellen Dick over there is also from Steinbach.
Oh my gosh, you guys. Yeah, that's amazing. I'm so happy to see you here and just thrilled. And then I'm near tears actually. So my dad was your teacher.
Yes. I learned quite a bit. It was a little stern, I would say.
Was he stern?
A little stern. Not the funniest teacher I ever had, but I don't
Fair
have
enough.
bad memories really. He was a little hard on us, but that's okay. I probably us little Mennonite boys deserved it back then. But, I was going to ask you. So because of my roots in the same place, you have your roots. When you talk today about guilt and all the baggage that a lot of us carry when we come out of that culture. I've been trying to throw it out the window like your mother, but it goes and it seems to fly back in the window. Maybe it's in your wind museum or something. But anyway, I wanted to ask you about the title of your book. So the Truce is not peace. What does that mean for you in that book? Where's the truce and where's the peace?
And again, that's a line from Christian Wyman's writing. The truce, yeah. The truce, I guess, is the truce that I feel that I have arrived at, negotiated with myself, with writing, with staying alive, and with, my sister, for instance, my father, for, a truce, a kind of, if I think of this book, and I really do, as an argument with myself, like a conflict, then like a confrontation, then I feel that the truce is that I can. I'm not at peace. I feel that that's something unachievable. It's something that we're always told in this day and age. Oh, peace of mind. You're just fine. But I'm not sure that I don't think that I'll ever have that, or that anybody really ever has that. And that the best thing for me, anyway, in within the context of these things, the subjects that I write about, is a truce, is a a sort of hands across the water. It's like it is, I'm not going to say it is what it is. I don't like that, but it's just reconciling. It's just learning to live with things, because we really have to. We have to find a way to just live with stuff, like the guilt. We can say that the guilt never goes away, and that's okay. There's no closure.
That's great. Thanks.
I have to follow Murray with this. How can I do that?
Where are you from?
I'm from Inglewood, California. That doesn't do anything. You have no idea how many shades of white paint there are these days.
Oh yeah.
That if you have not read her story in the New Yorker from 2 past issues, I think it was the best story I've read this year in the New Yorker.
Thank you.
It seriously is. And that line is such an incredible objective correlative. It wasn't until I reread it that I went, oh, look at this thing staring at me. And then you have I'm going to spoil it for everybody. You have her reading, talking, but not talking silently to the pictures. And then that great syncopated concatenation weird sentence comes out where she says, goes in detail how she does it, and then she goes, but I don't do it every night, I just do it once a month. And that incredible turnaround is what I find like really amazing in that story. And I wasn't going to get up and just talk about that story, but then as I heard you talking about silences and talking to people and talking to people who are not there and keeping them with you, I went like, oh my God, Roland is in a sense Marge, I think. And I wanted to ask you, did you write that story contemporaneously while you were writing this? And what was the intersection of those two?
Thank you so much for that. I just, that's like, yeah, I really appreciate you saying that. I wrote it a few months ago. So I wrote it, yeah, but it was, sort of brewing, simmering probably while I was working on the edits of Truce of this book. Yeah, for sure. And yeah, absolutely. The similarities between Marge and Roland, and Roland was actually my mom's first cousin. From Steinbeck, and those were the circumstances of his life and death. The rest of the story is just fictional, but and I was always just so just so intrigued by that story, of her cousin, and knew that I just wanted to write something around that, and I think that definitely I would often think that, and Marge, my sister too, was very intrigued, and we didn't know him, of course, but certainly when I was writing, that character, I was thinking of her. Yeah.
Great. It's a great story.
Thank you so much for reading it.
It's been such a pleasure to talk to you. I'm so glad you came.
Likewise. Me too.
Please get a copy of the book. Give us just a second. She'll sign books here and talk to you. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thanks.